Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to some of you, and peace out to the rest of you. Hit the share button because the message is more important than the messenger. First, I'll clear up something about when I gave Sneeko credit. I titled it the way I did because I'm trying to be fair. I said giving Sneeko credit where it's due. The reason I said that is because I'm not trying to give credit where it's not. It's not fair to others if I were to do that, but Sneeko 8 months ago got roasted by Bilal of the features, and he deserved that based on what he had said before. More recently, he began to champion racial equality, and he began to oppose even Andrew Tate's subscriptions to notions of racial superiority or inferiority, inequality. And Tate was like, it's nothing personal. I'm just going to break your jaw next time I see you. So that's pretty much where he takes a stand and separates even from Tate, as he should. But I don't want to give the impression that I just don't care at all about what he has said before. What I'm doing is I'm covering bases. If he stays on this trajectory, then I was one of the first to give him credit for it, to be fair. If he goes back and regresses to his prior trajectory, Bilal and I and C.L. Edwards probably are going to roast and flame him again, even independently of each other. Inshallah. This is what we would do across the board. You see, if somebody accepts Islam seriously, lock, stock, and barrel, it doesn't guarantee that they shed ideas and notions of white supremacy or any other supremacy, but it does guarantee that they're supposed to, and they can be checked and called on it. So let me get that clear first. Now, as for why I opened this up, I opened up this time to tell you that frankly, gentlemen, there's not going to be much of a future ahead for us. We're not going to get much of one. What I'm seeing happen to us, for the most part, is I'm seeing that we are going to be painted into a corner because the misandrists have half of the work already done for them. They don't have to really be active in spreading their misandry to the same extent as we have to be in blocking its spread. We need to inoculate the men and as many women as possible in these societies to which we like to go against misandry before it hits them. We also have to inoculate young black boys to the extent that we can. Now, when you cannot, you cannot, but when you can, you do so. I have to tell you that because if I don't mention this, many of us are still going to look for an out, not realizing that this is going to be a collective effort. If you were SYSBM or you were Passport Bro or IBMOR, you must understand that it is not only about saving just your individual self. It is about the collective. It's not just about you finding your own wife, traditional wife, and your own good in-laws, if you can find them. It's not just about that. It's about you maintaining the ability for others to do the same if they're worthwhile. It's about you preventing the trap that they're trying to turn the whole world into becoming, a trap in which no matter where you go, you land and face the same thing. And they sit up and say, no matter where you go, there you are. when in reality, it's more like no matter where you go, they've already reached there before you. The Philippines I'm beginning to hear more and more about Panay women not liking brothers. I've heard some things about them really not liking anybody. Not liking their own men, not liking brothers, not liking white folk. And if they don't really like anybody, at least that's equal and it's egalitarian. I don't know how true it is, but this is what I hear about. And I don't really want you to be in situations in which you're expected to spoil someone that doesn't really want you. And I say that because you can get that pretty much anywhere. I'm beginning to hear about more and more people being injured in Thailand. So I stated before that there will come a day when Thailand will become a place in which men will experience violence, like what they're experiencing in Colombia and Brazil. Now, maybe not forceful hitting, but drugging. That's a type of violence. Being set up for robberies, that's a type of violence, this sort of thing. I don't want this for you. What has happened is that in the West, the women have looked at whatever the hell you believe is right and normal to do. Whatever is normal and natural, and whatever you believe and can accept is right and normal and natural. They've looked at all of these things and they said, we're going to block this off. If you are a practicing Christian or Muslim and you don't believe in fornication, then what they want to do is turn around and make marriage more difficult than what it is. There are already certain divorce laws that do that, but they want to turn around and make marriage into a trap. And they've succeeded. If you don't believe in marriage, then they want to turn around and make the relationships without marriage into traps. And they've succeeded. They want to take the only thing that most of them can offer a man, which is dim draws, and surround it with problems unnecessarily, not for any good reason, not to make sure you're responsible before they risk reproduction with you. That's not it. Because irresponsible guys are the ones reproducing with them. They're carefree. They're irresponsible. These women will tell you they got better ding-a-ling because, one, they're banging like their life depends on it. And number two, they really are not willing to worry about things that could kill their boners. They don't undergo the same stress that we go voluntarily. So it's not even about that. They're just doing it just to be difficult. They're taking whatever you believe and they're saying we're going to surround that and make it difficult. So whatever you believe is not natural to do is going to be what they come along and try to offer you. As I stated in a previous upload, that's why they're trying to emasculate you. You don't believe in being emasculated. That's wrong. It's unnatural by anyone's standards. So they keep on offering you only ideas and options and ways to be emasculated. They don't want anything else for you. They see you as completely undeserving of anything else. That's who they are. And what they want to do is turn the rest of the world into this, and they're succeeding because TikTok is doing part of their work for them. Instagram and Snapchat are doing part of their work for them. And then as you go forward and go further and go forward and go even further, this is what's going on. They then are turning around and adding to that. They're adding more and more and more to this. And as they add more and more to the efforts of TikTok and Snapchat and Instagram, more and more women are being reached. And they got the nerve to sit up in the West and say things like, well, men are not interested in really dismantling the patriarchy. Of course, we're not. The reason why a lot of young guys now who are in fact raised to be feminists aren't interested in dismantling the patriarchy is because there is none. Dismantle it, they don't know about it. It doesn't exist. Even if they think it doesn't really exist. In their subconscious minds, it doesn't exist. When they think it's there, it turns out that it's not. dismantle the patriarchy. They're already male feminist. They don't know patriarchy. They don't know it in their homes. They don't know it at work. They don't know it anywhere. They just hear about it. And when they say, well, I'm not going to contribute to it, then they're still blamed for there being a patriarchy. And the whole time they're trying to figure out, well, wait a minute, why do these women hate me and I'm on their side? And then we get confessions by some of these women in which they say, could you please stop trying to support your way into some drawers and get out the way so I can see who I'm actually going to screw? Yeah, that's a confession a lady wrote. Want the screenshot? I don't know if it's still posted by her. You might have to subscribe to my Jet Black Air Lounge to get it, to see it. I got 49 confessions as of right now, as of this recording. Catalog them. They even want good women to not understand what men are going through. See, a so-called good woman is a woman that's not going to contribute to men's stress knowingly. It's accidental, it's unknowing, it's not malicious. That's the good woman. But they even have it to where a lot of otherwise good women just don't even know what men go through. And so therefore they can't be careful to not add on to it. Or they don't know how to prevent certain things or how to actually sympathize or empathize with men. Good women with no ill intention will be very smart and sharp and intellectually sound and strong about anything in life until it is time for that to benefit you. Then you come around and they start flittering and flooding around like dingbats. Turn the dits on. Start coming up with ways for you to spend money, and they start coming up with the worst times for you to run certain errands. That's who they are. That's why routine errands at times, you might notice that routine errands become stressful. What's the reason? They pick the worst times. Rush hour. What's the reason? You go from one thing, you wind up having to get a whole bunch of other things. That's why. It's never over. You could sit up and say, well, I know when to go and run a particular errand. I know when not to go. And they're going to go straight to the time that is the worst to go. And that's when they're going to run the errand. And they're not even thinking, I want this time because it's the worst. That's not it. I'm afraid they're succeeding. I don't think we're going to make it, gentlemen. We won a gender war in the States to a certain extent, or we've won a lot of the gender war battles, but they keep on going. They don't stop. And on a global stage, I'm afraid they're going to win because they have more working for them than we have working against them. I've stated before, when you go to these places you like to go to, you may not even find someone readily right off the bat, but you do have to start getting with good men, buddies, and letting them know what's coming down the pipe. Now, you may not have to tell them what to do about it. The only things you really may have to tell them are, this is what's coming down the pike, and this is what has been done that's already failed. Then they'll know what to do. If you have friends that are ladies, I'm not saying be alone with them in seclusion. That's not modest and proper. But if y'all are actually friends, and you may have to say to them, listen, they're going to start trying to, at some point, they're going to get in contact with you, especially if your English is good, and they're going to try to get you to hate men for being men. And men don't hate you. And that's what they're going to do. And the thing is that when you're a young guy and there's nobody out there for you, that can work either one or two ways. Either you become choosier and choosier and choosier because of the length of time you've been single, or you become less and less and less choosy because of the length of time you've been single. It can work either way. The only way for that to work for you in a way that's not going to work against you is the first one. You become choosier and choosier and choosier. If it means you're single forever, so be it. That's unnatural. But the alternative is worse because they are banking on you becoming less and less and less choosy and lowering your standards, which is really what they're supposed to do because their standards are out of control and yours are not. And that's why it is that I sit up and I say that there's certain double standards we're going to need to start reintroducing, and some that are new and we need to introduce them. Here's one of them, for example. When a guy starts a podcast talking about marriages or relationships and he's single, so what? He's a guy talking about this. He better be single for the sake of any women, because once he's involved, if he is with somebody, he better act like he's single. Because if I know this, if you all knew who I was, especially if I lived in the States, it would be worse. If you knew who I was, you would turn around and try to find out who my family members are, and you would try to find out who my wife is and shame her into leaving. Not those of you in my audience, most of you, but my enemies that do listen, the ops that listen would try to do exactly that, because why not? That's the punishment. If my wife knew what my channel is, she might feel pressure to leave even if nobody told her about it. If she knew and nobody else knew and could tell about it, she might feel like, you know what, I'm supposed to leave in this case, even if I don't do it. She'd still be aware of the pressure, the social pressure. So what does that tell you? And this is a good woman we're talking about. But what does this tell you? I want you to understand that it's not the same. You don't fully understand what the hell it is that they want for you, because you're not sitting down and thinking about this from a position of hatred. What do you not want for yourself? That's what they want for you. You don't like men. They want you to have no option but to be with other men. You don't like women bringing you other men's kids to raise. They want you to have no other option but to raise other men's kids. You don't like them either too young, certainly, or just too young looking. You know what? They don't want you to have any other options. Even if you don't like them underage and at inappropriate ages, they want you to have no other option but the one you don't want, even if it is that they want that. If you're an adult man and an inappropriately young lady or girl takes up an interest in you or develops a crush on you, they'll turn around and blame you. Because a lady's got a crush, or a little girl's got a crush on you, they want to turn around and say, you're not the trustworthy one. They're not playing with you. They're not playing with you. You have to understand the depths of hatred. And most of you black men aren't even capable of that kind of hatred. But you got to start trying to understand the hatred that some folks have. Sometimes white supremacists has a particular hatred for you. You got to try to understand it, not to have it, but to know it. Well, same thing when it comes down to a lot of these ladies, Western women, same thing. You got to understand that they just want you to suffer at times. So that makes double standards, certain double standards, okay. If a woman has a podcast and she can't get a man and keep a man, whether she believes in relationships or marriage, she can't get and keep what she believes to be morally acceptable, then she's the one that gets discredited. Tell her to fuck the shuck up. No, I didn't cuss just now. A man does that. He starts a podcast about it. He's single. So what? If he's not single, he better pretend like he is in order to protect his relationship. One of the ways I protect my marriage is that I don't say who I am. I protect my brother's privacy, my parents' privacy, my kids' privacy, my wife's privacy, and my marriage to my wife by nobody knowing who I am, and no one knows who she is. If I did not do so, if I didn't do so, guess what would happen? Y'all already know. I've already stated it. I've already said it. And why would women be on her case? Well, he's a misogynist and you love him. You must be a misogynist too. My wife ain't no misogynist. She's not internalized misogyny and that sort of thing. She hadn't done that. But you know what? I'm telling you, gentlemen, I'm telling you now. Wherever they see her, they go against her. She's already caught certain smoke from sisters just for being East African. That's all the hell it takes. Give her the mother cuss word blues. I'm sitting up here looking like, man, you know what? This gets ridiculous. So what would they do to her if they knew what she looked like? And she walks through an airport with me or by herself. How would they treat her? Girl, how dare you know what you're doing to mess up the lives of other women? And you're facing the same thing. So no, man, you go ahead and if you're going to start a podcast about it, and I don't care if you start a podcast and you're a virgin, you ain't even held a woman's hand or kissed a woman. Don't talk about things you don't know. But you know what? You would have a right to have a podcast about whatever you do know. As a man, most of the time, the podcasts that we do start, whether we're single or not, are about trying to attract and keep abroad because they keep wanting to go. Trying to keep their respect because they keep on trying to disrespect you. Trying to maintain good treatment because they keep wanting to use you or leave you. The dudes to whom they don't want to do this oftentimes don't even realize how bad the situation is until they make enough friends that are going through this, enough normal guys that actually tell the truth about what they're facing. Then they come to understand. Usually, take a personal trainer. Getting buns, married buns, single buns, all that. He got buddies, but all his buddies don't know each other. Two or three of them that don't know each other start to tell him how they're being treated. And then he realizes, dang, it's really bad. And then he says, you got a picture of these girls that treat you like this? And he looks at the photos, and these girls will be kind of cute, but not as bad as ones he's banging, other men's wives and things. And then that's when these guys come to realize what's going on. That's how some of them put out these videos. Even if they weren't entire podcasts, they put out these videos and they were like, look, man, I see what they're doing. While they treating you bad, I'm letting you know what they're actually doing. And they're telling these guys, listen, you know what? Don't even try to get at them anymore because you can't trust them. If they cheat on you, I'm the guy with whom they cheating. I'm sitting next to them on the couch or somewhere when their husbands or their boyfriends call and they don't want to answer the phone. And that's me. Baddies are doing this for me, and then you got mid-level women that are cute enough sitting up here acting like you're just bothersome. They can't stand you. They can't tolerate you. Your compliments are insults to them. And this exact same dynamic is now being exported. Thailand, where they're not violent in most cases, they're now getting violent. I wonder how much it's already been present just as a rare phenomenon, an existent but rare phenomena. I wonder how long that's been before before it became a phenomena of which we could hear about two cases in a short time. One involving I think a white American or white Canadian, and another one I think was caught on video. Look, at the end of it all, I'm telling you guys, at the end of it all, we're going to have to start paying more attention. And like I said, we got to get in touch with buddies of ours that live in these places and telling them what's coming down the pike. Because their governments need to know. And if their governments are going to censor certain things the way that they do censor certain things, and we would say that it's kind of reasonable, then they can censor this. You can't just insult women because you hate them. You cannot advocate for mistreating them. Fine, but you can't do that to men either. That needs to be in place. if they're going to censor it all. Now, if they're not censoring anything, then they're not. But then that's the culture can step in and censor that. The men have to start realizing, listen, if somebody wants to marry my sister or marry my daughter, and I know she's a feminist, I need to, my job is to tell the guy, look, she's a feminist. And I don't know how far she's going to go with this misandry. Does she just want women's rights, which is fair, and she respects men's rights too? Or is she against men? Does it go that far? You know what? I don't really know which one. That's the fair thing to say. And we got to be serious about this. And let me tell you how serious we got to be. A cousin of mine years ago became Muslim. She became Muslim when she was in high school, and I didn't know about it. But she then left the religion, and I didn't know any of this. But then later in college, she became Muslim again. And she told me about it that time. She then got in touch with me and told me that there was a man she'd like to marry. And so I called to ask certain questions, and I looked to see what I could find on him. And as a matter of fact, his record was pretty, there was no criminal record, nothing. I think there was a record of him being enrolled at some school at some point. And then that's pretty much all I could find. Maybe I didn't do enough. She later told me that they were splitting up because he got violent. And I was actually going to say, listen, if you show me any evidence of him actually being violent, I will back you up against him. She did. Now, I was not going to tell her to estrange him from his kids, unless he was violent to them, and apparently he never was. I wasn't going to do any of that. I was simply going to say, well, look, she should be trying to get this divorce. She right. She sent me screenshots of the conversation, the text conversation with him in which he apologized for choking her to unconsciousness. And that was when I backed her up. And this is my own blood cousin. I did not know that she would estrange the kids from him later on. I was not aware of that. But she and I don't talk anymore because she left the religion. And even if she wants to say, well, I had a Muslim husband and he abused, even if she says that, I'm like, see, you don't become Muslim just to get married. I told you that from the very beginning. And I didn't think that's why you became Muslim. So now I don't have the conversation with her to tell her, listen, when are you going to see his boys? But I can also tell you this too. If we know what we left and other people are able to see bits of evidence of what we've had to leave behind and how these violent broads have been acting back in the West, they can see this. That's fine. But if they know, we still need to let them know what is being exported, because they need to know that this stuff is being exported into their country. Their women know, but the men oftentimes don't understand what it involves and what it means. And we can't leave it up to degenerates like Andrew Tate to spread that sort of awareness. He's right about what's going on. I don't agree with how he reacts to it, but we can't leave it to guys like him to sit up and spread this awareness on their own, because that makes everything divisive. Do you listen to an electronic pimp? I mean, you don't want young guys who don't fully understand nuance to have to choose between listening to an electronic pimp tell them the truth about what a situation's like, but then give them the wrong reactions to it, or listening to somebody else who knows how not to react to something like this, but doesn't fully explain or even take the time to comprehend what the fuck is going on, what these guys are facing. This is not a joke. I stated years ago that we had to get busy with this. And I would tell some of my students about this. If my students would be good enough to understand and be able to talk about these things, and we got enough of the actual necessary work done from the curriculum out the way, I would say, all right, listen, let me ask y'all, what do y'all know about this feminism that's not so weird? What's going on here in Saudi? I'd let them tell me about it. Then I'd share information with them about what was going on in the States, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, Israel, Spain, France, the Anglophone Caribbean. I've told them about this stuff after they told me what they know. And you know what? I think it had an effect. Because now you got bilingual guys here who understand what body count means. Now, they might not be comfortable talking about this with everybody, but there are some people with whom they know to discuss this, and that person knows with whom he can discuss it. And so at least the men have a resistance. It's being spread, but the men have their resistance to this. These men here will tell you, if I find out that my sister's on this stuff, my dad and I will take her phone. She gets a dumb phone, and that's all she gets. You think we'll just watch her to make sure she doesn't have a boyfriend and that's it? No, we'll watch her to make sure she doesn't have the wrong kind of girlfriends. No. You ain't going to their house no more. They're coming over here. We might bug the house so we can hear y'all. Now, we wouldn't intrude on your privacy, especially hers, but we might bug the house so that we can hear. We're not going to tolerate the spread of this stuff if we know about it. If these guys know that it is reached, that their sister's one of the listeners or the mamas or the aunts or the nephews, if they know that the women in their family whom they're responsible for taking care of have become the listeners, they will take the electronic devices from them and give them dumb phones so they can stay in contact. B word, take this old Nokia. That's all you getting. You shouldn't have been listening to that foolishness, and I caught you. That's a hard thing to catch, but if they do catch them, and these women know, these women do understand, if they get caught, the care taken of them is going to diminish to a certain extent. They're not going to be spoiled no more like they've been. Matter of fact, dad might turn around and decide to go ahead and marry them off to a man that's just super strict and don't let them have nothing. Oh, you know what? Here's a man that ain't gonna even let you out the house. You want something from a grocery store? Nope. You send him or you send your son. And if they're tired, then they'll say, wait till tomorrow. They ain't letting you out the house because you on that foolishness. Oh, that's what you're going to be like? Yeah. Okay, now I'm going to make sure that I marry you to a man that is not permissive at all. Ain't going to tolerate none of this. You can't even have a job. You can't even have your own money. What you need money for? You ain't got to go nowhere. You ain't got to pay for nothing unless he's with you. He might even determine what you eat. You're going to be smothered. You're going to be stifled just because you had the nerve to sit up here and blame men who take it upon themselves to take care of you. What were you going to do? Make good choices in men by yourself? That might seem extreme, but it's an extreme reaction to an extreme problem. So when you go into the Philippines, make buddies with Filipino men and let them know what's up. If you still choose to go. I've been hearing it. Apparently the women don't really like anybody. They're polite, but don't really like anybody. I'm not sure how true it is. I haven't been there. You know what? If you go to Indonesia, let those men know. If you go to Malaysia, let those men know. If you go to Thailand, become buddies with some of the Thai men, let them know. You go to Cambodia, become buddies with some of the Cambodians and let them know what's happening. If you go to Lao, or some people pronounce it Lao, some people pronounce it Lao, whichever one, let them know what's happening. If you go to Myanmar, God forbid, let them know what's up. Some of you go to really out of the way places like Albania or some of the stands. Again, if you're not Muslim, don't mess with the Muslim women, but let your buddies know what's coming down the pike. Stop playing with me. Got to tell each other about this. And as it is, we're probably already too late. Guys in Romania, hell, they know now. But it should have taken somebody with a character that's better than Andrew Tate's to tell them. And you black men, I mean black men that know you're black and are happy about it, not like Tate. You black men with your good characters, to the point that even an Indian guy on TikTok named Saad out the UK had to come forward and give y'all credit and even say, I ain't even trying to win y'all over nothing. I'm saying it's because it's true. And it's time somebody actually came out and said it. Angels have been depicted as white. My angels have been black. He's the same one that gave black women credit for building them up. And we were like, bro, that's because you ain't black. They built you up. He came out and gave brothers credit. It's to that extent your character has shown forth. So how about you go ahead and take this lead and let them know this is what's coming down the pike. Let them know this is a propaganda that is designed to bust up the families so that the future generations will have a loyalty to the state and to corporations more than they would ever have to the families because the families weren't there or they weren't solid. Let them know that. Let them know what they want is for both parents to be so busy working that the TV and the media have to raise the kids. That's the whole point. Let them know that. I hope that what I said helps. Thank you for listening. As always, black heart, black mind, black out, assalamu alaikum, black heterosexual, non-select male power because they don't like it in black patriarchy. Before I finish out, Prince Salmonia, thank you for coming through on the Cash App, man. I just got that as I was recording. So from the bottom of my black heart and from the depths of my black mind, thank you. Thank you for flying with us here at Jet Black Air, where the phrase Jet Black is also a verb. Keep Jet Black with us till the wings and the wheels fall off. Gender justice forever.